I was just so surprised that no one had ever taught me this. Like, I was like, what? I felt like I'd just discovered the most important thing ever. And I just could not believe that I was like, I'm feeling gypped. Why didn't someone tell me this already? I was suffering so bad.
When life's feeling overwhelming, it's easy to have the thought that you just can't handle it. But what if resilience isn't something that you're born with? It's actually something you can build. In this episode, I sit down with Melli O'Brien, who's a mindfulness teacher, resilience expert, and the founder of mindfulness.com. Melli shares simple, real-world strategies to stop getting trapped by negative thoughts, strengthen your emotional resilience, and reconnect with a deeper sense of purpose, even when everything around you feels chaotic. Welcome to Move Your Mind, where we uncover why you are holding yourself back from getting the life you want and what to do about it. With the help from high-achieving guests and experts in behavioural science, personal development, and the health and wellness space. Join us if you're ready to move out of your own way toward your ideal self. I'm your host, nickbracks, and I've been working in the health and wellness space for the last 15 years, helping people find direction and gain the courage to take control of their life. My mission is simple: to help you learn everything that I wish I knew so you can become your ideal self. Lacking guidance, I spent the majority of my youth feeling lost and disempowered, which led to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and substance abuse. Looking back, I didn't have the vocabulary to communicate what I was experiencing. And as a man, I didn't resonate with the emotional language used in traditional therapy. I didn't need to talk about my feelings. I needed tangible solutions to guide me toward building a life I was proud of. If you can relate, then this podcast is for you. In this episode, we discuss how to build unshakable mental resilience in an overwhelming world. If you're ready to take action and build a stronger mindset, then keep listening. Melli, thank you so much for making the time to come on the podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And really looking forward to this conversation because we're on a similar mission. We have similar passion in the world. So and I really love what you're doing. So happy to
appreciate it. Yeah, well, same to you. And I mean, that's what I say most of the interviews, because it's all with like-minded people. And often, like what happened with us before recording, you just have a chat, get to know each other, and then very quickly you're going into all these different topics that would be great for the podcast. So it's what I love about doing this, because I just get to, have people like yourself give me half an hour of their time and learn about really interesting things. So love connecting with people like you as well. So that is what I'm trying to say. There you go. So anyway, before we get into it, would you mind giving a bit of a background on yourself and the work you do, just so our listeners can learn more about you?
Yeah, I have been a mental health educator and coach for almost 20 years now. And my work mainly is revolved around mindfulness and also teaching mental resilience. And I'm also the co-founder of mindfulness.com. Had the really good fortune of my work being able to reach over 1 million people around the world. And these days what I'm specializing in is a framework that I call the Deep Resilience Method. And it's a mindfulness-based framework for staying strong in the hardest moments of your life. So, my inspiration for doing that was twofold. We are just living through, the heat is rising in the kitchen. This is not new news to anyone, right? We, as I know you're very familiar with and a really great advocate for raising awareness around the fact that we're currently in a global mental health crisis. People are not being taught properly. We are not being taught the skills to stay mentally resilient. We should be, in my opinion, learning these with our ABCs, the fundamentals, starting with our ABCs, just learning how to regulate our thoughts and emotions in healthy ways, how to live in alignment with our values, how to, really just understanding the fundamentals and building them. So the first reason I created the Deep Resilience Method and the book I just released, which is called Deep Resilience as well, is because I just want to make this simple. The mental health isn't complex. It's actually, when you boil it down, it's just, a few evidence-based skills. I want to make it as easy as possible. Um, so yeah, it's that those two things combined. I think the challenges and the uncertainty and the changes in life are growing. And I also feel like everybody should just, these skills should be in everybody's hands. So I'm on a mission to make the world mentally stronger. So that's what I'm up to. That's what I've been up to, and that's what I'm continuing to be up to.
I love it. I love it. No, and it is so, so similar in different ways. And I love what you're doing, and I love, how you're talking about it there and trying to simplify it, make it more tangible, because, this stuff is, we live in a world that's so chaotic, so much information, we're just overwhelmed. And a lot of the mental health related, things that we're told to do are intangible, and we're not taught about it, like you're saying. And it's why I moved my company. A lot of what we do now is fitness and movement related to help with, your holistic health, because it's tangible and people get it. And it's just so hard to and to simplify it for people and do that. But we need to. And so I love what you're doing with that. And would you say resilience has gone down in the general population in the last, I don't know, 10, 20 years with where the world's gone, because we have just so much going on?
Do you know what's so interesting? I actually just made a podcast about this because I was like, oh, I'm just hearing again and again people saying, I think I'm just not that resilient. I think I'm just not able to cope as well. Like, I think I'm just one of those people that, was born this way. And I'm like, you know what? The actual reality, when you look at the research, it's not that we aren't resilient. It's that, first of all, we're just not, you could say if you don't teach someone language, they're just not smart enough to ever speak or write. That is not true. It's just that we're not being taught this stuff, which is crazy. But the other thing is the world is getting more difficult, and there's so much research, Nick. Like, this is why I did this podcast recently, because there's so much research on the fact that the world and the culture we're living in are putting so much that, like, it's like the way the culture we're living in is so out of alignment with what human beings' needs are to thrive, that it's inevitable that we're going to be feeling like overwhelmed, anxious, disconnected, lonely, like life isn't fulfilling anymore. Like, that would be a natural, healthy response to a culture that doesn't meet human needs. So it's not that our resilience has gone down. It's those two factors. Life is getting harder. Our nervous systems and minds weren't really designed for the way we're living, and no one's teaching us how to deal with all of this. So yeah, I really just want to reassure people that if they're feeling like they're not coping and they're anxious or they're feeling depressed or overwhelmed, it's not you. It's not you.
Yeah.
There's a reason. 8 of us around the world going through stuff, and you're not alone. So, right, there's something going on there that's beyond just one person feeling like. I really like to reiterate that you and I have both had our own mental health struggles, right? And you and I both know from our firsthand experience, we both have the potential to go to that place. And we also both have the potential to go to this other place of feeling really empowered and our lives are meaningful and we have healthy relationships and we're thriving. You and I both have those potentials, and so does everybody else. So I'm just really passionate about unlocking those potentials so that we suffer less and collectively thrive better.
Yeah, I love the way you've worded all of that. Like, the way you've put it, it makes it so clear, and it is so true. And I mean, like you're saying at the beginning, it does seem like madness to me that we don't have this in schooling, that it's not just the most important thing that we're taught. We have to just fall on our face and learn it organically. We don't know what we're doing. It doesn't really make any sense. But what you're saying there is exactly my experience. Having my own mental health issues, feeling like I just couldn't cope, constantly, having undiagnosed ADHD, constantly saying that to myself and other people. I just think, I'd be saying I feel like I'm just not built for, handling the chaos of the world, and other people, these things that are easier for other people, I just find so hard. at the end of the day, it's just stories that we tell ourselves, and we don't realize, I'm sure there's varying levels, but everyone feels discomfort and difficulty. But if we're telling ourselves we can't get through it, then we're sort of shooting ourselves in the foot before we even try. And I guess that's what resilience is. It's telling you, having either enough data or being able to dismantle that story. If our mind's saying, no, I can't get through, it's like, well, I don't have to believe that. I might feel like awful emotions while I try and go through it, but I still don't have to believe it. And let's let the evidence, when I do try and go through it, tell me what the situation actually is. And it's often, vastly different to what these stories are that we tell ourselves.
Yeah, you're giving such a good example there of like what one of the foundations of resilience is in the way that I teach it, which is like something that we call psychological flexibility, right? So you have a thought that tells you, there's something wrong with you, you're broken, you just don't fit in, and like you're always going to be this way. And, the ability to kind of step back from those thoughts and then have a choice about like not having that thought dominate you, push you around, disempower you, and just having a lot more freedom in the way that and skill in the way that, because the human mind is pretty crazy, like it comes up with all kinds of weird stories and that can crush our self-esteem, limit our potential, make us reactive, all kinds of things, make us depressed, anxious. So if we can just learn that fundamental ability to regulate our thoughts in skillful ways, that is like totally game changing. But for me, that's like one of three foundations that I teach, which is the ability, like mental strength, which is the ability to regulate your thoughts in skillful ways, emotional strength, which is the ability to regulate your emotions in healthy and helpful ways. We should all definitely be learning those foundations because emotions are powerful things. And the third thing is to be able to act with like intentionally, so not to be reactive, but to be intentional and to live in a way that's guided by our values. That is like the bedrock of resilience that so many people don't actually know that much about. But essentially, if you think about it like this, if you have the ability to regulate your emotions and thoughts in helpful ways, then when unhelpful stuff is happening, you've got the ability to let that go, to not be defeated or pushed around. And then when you connect with your values, it's sort of like you're disconnecting from what's unhelpful, and then you're reconnecting with your strengths and your higher potentials and letting those be the thing that you lead with, even if your thoughts are still doing weird stuff.
Yeah.
That you've got something deeper, stronger, and wiser to kind of be your bedrock. And that's the guidepost for your actions and your next thoughts or your next approaches to life. So it's really powerful, kind of like the way that I teach it. It's kind of like you kind of do almost like the steps of a dance. Once you kind of learn the framework, you kind of, when something, say you have a really strong emotion, you'll kind of go through a process of 4 steps to kind of go, okay, I'm going to disconnect from that emotion, ground myself in something deeper, and then act from my strength rather than from my fear or my overwhelm or my reactivity. And we all have that capacity, every single one of us. It's just practice, like learning to ride a bike or drive a car. You just got to practice the steps a bit.
Like anything, exactly. Like things are going to feel uncomfortable or foreign or impossible if we haven't learnt about them and we haven't put it into practice, like literally any other skill. And I think, again, the way you're describing that is so refreshing, because once people can tangibly understand that, then it's like, sigh of relief that, okay, it's not that complicated. This is what I can do. And the second part of that came up is, how hard is it for people, even if they do have this information, to make these changes on their own? I guess, again, if I use my own life for an example, I've done a lot of work on my own. I thought I had come really far, but then, if I look at, like, one example would be my partner when I was first with her, and she's a neuroscientist and studied psychology and has ADHD herself, and I thought I was so advanced with where I'd got to, and within the first few months, she saw my emotions would be changing 500 times a day. I'd be up and down and manic and blah, blah, blah. And, eventually she sort of said, well, if you don't have ADHD, I'll be shocked because you're worse than most people I've ever fucking seen. And I eventually did get diagnosed and was able to have a framework to work on. And she was pointing out to me, because we're together all the time and she understood it. She was able to be patient with me and say, hey, this is what's happening. And she would call me out. And, I'm forever grateful to her for that, because it's really changed everything. I don't know for myself if I could have made as many changes without having someone like as that mirror in front of me. And I'm sure everyone's different, but yeah, how is that something that can be challenging for people if they're just on their own, to make the changes in a significant way?
Yeah, I think like there's just this truth. By the way, how good are our partners for showing us where we need to take a look?
I know, I know.
But it is good. That's been my experience too. It's good. Like, I think
Yeah.
if you just think about anything, whether it's mental health or if you want to get really good at any skill, like when I first came to learning about when I was in depression, I had an eating disorder and I had suicidal ideation. I was really in a bad place when I was younger. I needed a coach. I really needed a coach. I needed support around me to get the results that I got. So because I threw myself into these kind of practices, I was very motivated. I was like, I want change and I'm really, really willing to do what it takes to feel differently because I'm in a lot of pain. And I was lucky that I found a really skillful coach, and this person was really available to support me and mentor me. So I got quite significant results quite quickly. I think there's it's like anything. If you think about learning to drive a car or ride a bike, it's like you can watch some YouTubes and stuff like that and you could probably figure it out, but it's going to be harder for you, So it's the same with everything, right? Like we do a lot of things. We've got, we can do online courses and YouTubes and things, listen to podcasts, and we kind of piecemeal things together ourselves to a degree. But if you really want to learn the bike the easy way, it's probably going to be better if you just get someone competent. They know the steps. They've taught them to people before. Put your foot there, do it like this. And they know, you're probably going to lose your balance on the first go. So they'll catch you so you don't fall so hard.
Yeah.
And they're good at helping you to get better results quicker. I think that's the case with everything, really. That's my experience. Everything that matters to me in life, I have a good coach by my side. Like,
yeah,
I learned that young, that I can get better at everything exponentially faster with a really great coach by my side. But that being said, there might be other things that I don't.
You're looking to make a change, to lose weight, to get toned, to gain self-confidence, all in just 24 minutes a day, then go no further. You can check out the Move Your Mind community by going to nickbracks.start.page.
I could do it piecemeal way. If I want to do it that way, that's cool too. It just depends on your
Totally.
resources and your dedication, how much you want to change, at what pace. And
Yeah, it's going to be different for
really
everyone.
Easier.
Yeah.
It's easier with a good coach.
Yeah. Definitely. But no, like you're saying, no one size fits all. It can be different for anyone, but it definitely can make it easier, but it doesn't mean that you can't, go and approach these things by yourself.
Yeah, you can approach it by yourself, but I think if anyone is really wanting, like, I want to learn to drive a car in 30 days and I want to go get my license, get a coach.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
I'm in a pain cave and I need support to get out of this. I'm going through something messy in my life. I need support. I want, get a coach,
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Are you able to tell me a little bit more about your own story with your mental health journey? Is that okay to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my kind of origin story is that I went through some pretty traumatic stuff when I was quite young, and because that I didn't know how to cope with it, and I think I just kind of stuffed everything down. When I think this is some of the damaging ideas about resilience, because it's like, I was like, I'll just act tough. Like if I act tough, maybe there's stuff that's going on in the inside will be all right. I'll just kind of keep it
Yeah.
together. And so that didn't work. Long story short, that didn't work. And by the age of 17, I was, like I said, I had an eating disorder, undiagnosed depression. We didn't really, I think it wasn't really well known. Like mental health awareness was not what it was back then. And I would say probably undiagnosed ADHD as well.
Mm.
And I just didn't fit into the school system at all. I was struggling. So I started to have suicidal ideation pretty strong around the age of 17. I just thought, like, this level of pain, I cannot live like that. I'm only 17 years old. I can't live like this for like 40 years, 50 years. So I kind of, I hit a dark night of the soul where I kind of went like, okay, I kind of did a deal with myself. I'd already tried therapy. I'd tried some other healing modalities, made some difference, but I was still in a lot of pain. And I just did a deal with myself one day where I kind of went, okay, you're either going to take your own life, or you have to now try really hard somehow, like really go for it. Try one more time to try to find some way through to a new way of being. So the deal I did with myself was I'm going to try this path before, because I've always got this one to come back to if I want to. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try really hard now to try and figure this out. I had no idea what to do. I just made the deal with myself and I was like, I have no idea where to start. None. So I just went to my school library and I went through the library and I pulled down every single book on like psychology or mental health or anything to do with how to get out of that state. And I just had these big piles of books and I was comparing them all. So I was like opening something on Buddhism and trying to compare that to psychology and trying to compare that and try to figure out where there was some kind of common themes. Or anyway, there was a moment that I would say was probably one of the biggest sliding doors moments of my life. And it was going through the library one day, I had a realization that there was a common theme, mainly in the more contemplative type books like Buddhism, yoga, things like that. And what they were saying is that happiness is a skill. In other words, it's a thing that you can do inside of yourself. So up until this point, the reason why this mattered to me is because I kind of just thought I was broken. You know, I was a bit of the mindset where like maybe there's some people who are just like smart and brilliant and like they're all together, and I am clearly not one of them. And so I just was wondering if I was stuck like that. I think maybe part of me was looking for that answer. Like, am I just broken, or is there something more to this story? So once I understood that happiness was a skill, the realization that came after that is, well, if it's a skill, I already learned how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
I learned how to drive a car. If this is true, then that means if I learn the steps, I should be able to be happier, to feel better. So I think the reason why that was so game changing is because I was like, well, if that's true, then it's almost inevitable that if I just follow the recipe, it's going to work. Yeah. So I went on a mission to find a coach. I found one. It took me a while. She was a mindfulness teacher, but she also was teaching more than that. She was teaching a whole bunch of other stuff, like stress reduction and how to, like, stuff about how to manage your thoughts within that. And because I applied myself so much and practiced so much, I've started to feel some difference very quickly. And then I just threw myself at it. I just went really dedicated. And my eating disorder disappeared in probably about, I'd say 7 or 8 months later, never came back. Depression disappeared within a year, never came back. And I was just so surprised that no one had ever taught me this. Like I was like,
Mm.
what? I felt like I felt like I'd just discovered the most important thing ever. And I just could not believe that people, I was like, I'm feeling gypped. Why didn't someone tell me this already? I was suffering so bad. And so yes, that was my motivation for wanting to share these skills with everybody. And yeah, initially I thought
Wow.
I would be a therapist, because there was a pathway for that. But I was like, no, I did most of a therapy degree, and then like a true 20 something year old, just left my degree just before I finished it and went, no, 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 I just want to teach these skills. I don't want to do therapy. I want to be teaching these skills. I feel like everybody should have them. So, yeah, that's my story, how I ended up getting into this work.
Amazing. Well, yeah, incredible story, and I think such a good example. And I again, I love the practicality of it. Of you were once you found that method to go through, you went all in because you just saw a blueprint of how to do it. And I think for anyone, but especially people that are having mental health issues, our mind is chaotic and going in a million directions, and it's gonna be very hard unless we do have that blueprint, because you want to latch on to a way forward. So I think, yeah, it's an incredible story, and I love hearing stories like yours where you went from that point of suicidal ideation to now helping so many people, having all of this success, starting up being incredibly successful as an entrepreneur, releasing a book, helping people over the world. It's amazing to see, and I think again as an example for people, it just gives people so much hope, because it's like, hey, it's not you. Not only can you get yourself feeling okay, but you could actually go and take on the world. You could do anything, and we lose that hope a
Yeah.
lot of the time.
Oh man, I had none of that hope. I thought I had no hope, kind of like no vision for my life.
Mm.
No, like I just thought like I hate to say these words, but I just thought I was kind of a loser.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing well in school. I had no future ahead of me. Like I was just like, nah, there's just, that hopelessness.
Mm.
And but every single one of us has, like every single one of us has gifts inside. Uh, but yeah, it is such a shame that we can get so disempowered, and those gifts can get so stifled and um, limited by this stuff. Yeah.
100%, 100%. Well, another part, like a lot of our listeners are people that are stuck and wanting to make a change, whether it is with mental health or it might even be in their career. They might be just stuck in a job they don't want to do, and they're too scared to take a plunge and follow their dreams. I'm super interested, because I know how hard entrepreneurship is. How has that journey been for you? How much did the learnings that you're talking about here come into play on that journey? Because it can be so uncertain and up and down, and you have to have so much resilience to just keep pushing forward with that. Yeah, can you
Yeah.
tell me a bit about that journey?
Yeah. And just keeping in mind, like when you say there's, listeners out there that are feeling stuck, in various, maybe feeling like that way in various different domains of life, but especially as entrepreneurs, you kind of feel stuck with something every other week, don't you? It's like,
Oh God.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Never
Uh,
ending, never ending, often every
that's a
day. Yeah.
knowing.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I think the thing when I think about that question, and I think about that in relation to like, does that come into, what I do and how I approach that sort of domain of my life, there is not that much difference there between that and like life, you know what I mean? But the thing that comes to mind that is like the thing that I believe has been the most instrumental for me is basically, when it boils down to it, is to make the love for what you do, and um, the connection to the meaning of what you're doing, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be something grandiose. It can be serving people at the checkout, and like wanting to show up in a certain way, like to make the love, like connecting to that love for what you do, or the meaning or the values behind what you do, making that continuously bigger than the fear. bigger than the uncertainty,
Mm,
bigger than
mm,
the stress, bigger than the overwhelm, bigger than the uncertainty. Like for me, that's not only is that a central part of the deep resilience method, but that's like central to the way that I do business and life, because I do 100% come up against roadblocks and challenges and like yeah, entrepreneurial life is very uncertain and it's very up and down. And the way that I have always kept going is to connect with the mission and continuously, deliberately make that bigger than the fear. So, I'm talking about like being able to regulate the thoughts and emotions and then go, like I might ask myself a question like, what's my highest intention here? What am I doing here? What is this
mm.
about for me? Why have you kept going? Why are you keeping on going? Like what's here? Because in the end, like I don't have to, like when it comes to my business life, like I don't have to have this turn out a certain way. Like I might have big goals and dreams, but at the end of
Mm.
the day, I don't have to have them turn out the way that I want. What I do want to do is stay connected to what I really care about. And I could do that in a million different ways, right?
Mm.
I could do that with one person on a phone call, or just by being nice to my neighbor across the road, or I can do it by founding an app and helping a million people, or writing a book.
Yeah,
So I think, but I think when we are going, like when we want to make an impact and we really want to help people, um, make the love bigger than the fear. Keep connecting with your highest purpose. It'll fuel you.
I love
Like
that.
it'll
Yeah,
fuel you when things get tough. Like just that's the fuel. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I just connecting so much with what you're saying there. I feel like you're talking about me because that's exactly the same process I've been through, and I guess it is a similar process to, what you were talking about earlier with the mental health side of things. When we're, in that suffering and we don't know how to change it, often we'll attach external things to when I finally make enough money or achieve this or whatever it is, then I might
Mm-hmm.
feel better inside. And you never can. And that's why you see, celebrities or billionaires that have all of these drug problems or, huge issues because they just haven't healed whatever is inside of them. So
Mm-hmm.
they keep chasing, chasing, chasing. Um, and it took me so long, and I, still battle with that every day. But I sort of did that with myself a number of years ago, where I looked at everything and thought, okay, what do I really, really care about? And really, it was I just want to help people in the area of mental health, and like you're saying, whether it's through this conversation right now, whether it's someone on the phone, whether it's my book, whether it's my podcast, or doing a talk, or through the business, it doesn't really matter. But as soon as I start putting that pressure on the business side of things that it needs to do blah blah blah, then you just go back to that, and it's because it's just an awful feeling when you're attached. And in my other career, I pursued in acting and producing, and I took myself out of that when I first moved to the US because I was latching on too strongly to needing to validate myself through doing it. And now that I've gone back into it, I'm loving it, and it's so joyous because I just removed everything, went back to basics, and thought, you know what, if stuff comes out of this, fantastic, but how do I just enjoy every element of it? If I do one audition, how do I make that audition, instead of being this terrifying thing that I might get rejected on, how do I just make it, that's the enjoyment, just doing that. I'm already doing it, and it changes everything. It makes you, it's just such a inner peace that comes from that, and it's so hard to, I think you have to consciously maintain that, because the world every day is going to try and make us think the opposite way, because we just open our
Yeah.
phone and see, comparison is everywhere. So, yeah, anyway, love what you were
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. It's a really interesting one, that because like you can still be really, really determined to do something.
Mm,
Like finishing a book is not easy, right? Like you can still be
yeah.
like, I'm 100% doing this. But there, I don't know about you, but when I was doing my book, I had so much self-doubt come in. I was like, who am
Oh
I to
my
write a
God.
book? Do I know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I don't think, and you're in this silo, so you're kind of, no one's seeing it. You're like, I don't know if this is a bunch of crap or if it's any good. And it's a real psychological game of like I could just go to the beach instead of doing this. Like,
Yeah.
it's the self-doubt is really real. It's really exposing to put your work out there. So there is, but like even in that dance, it's like I'm going to finish this, but reconnecting back to like, why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? Like, and there can be such a feeling of it moving from a different part of you. Also, yeah, really different to like wanting to get to the end point so that you can be validated as like an author, or it's such a
Yeah.
different energy. Um, like on the issue of happiness as well, I always say to people, and go look at the research. There's some awesome research about like our culture is giving us such toxic messaging about what happiness is because it sells products. So we're getting
Yeah.
marketed stuff all the time,
Mm.
and it's really really easy to get lost in this kind of consumer culture where we're sort of it's really promoting achievement and specialness and standing out as like the highest ideals for our life and like wealth. But if you just go back and look at the research, the two things that work are being present in the moment, like right, the biggest study on human happiness that's ever been done by Matt Killingsworth at Harvard University. Awesome TED talk. Anyone can go watch it. The results are in. It's like when you're present in the moment, it's not the big car, it's not the big house, it's not the big achievement, it's not the perfect relationship.
Are you interested in joining a community of like-minded people who are on the same journey as you are? Even though you're the one that needs to do the work, you don't have to go it alone. You can find all of the information at nickbracks.start.page.
It's your state of mind. So being present and living by your values, those are the two data points that have the most research. Like when people are living according to their own values, things like kindness, integrity, loyalty, adventure, whatever your particular values are. So the more you're present, the more you're living your values, the more happy you are. And then beyond that, it's like healthy relationships, healthy body, simplicity. So it's kind of crazy. It's very counter to what the world is kind of screaming at us. So we need to be able to like willing to stop, pause, question, go a little bit against the status quo. And yeah, we can still do great things, right? We can still do cool if that feels like it's what we're here to do. That's cool, but it won't ultimately. So ultimately, going to move the needle of happiness massively.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram at nickbracks. I really appreciate your ongoing support.
Unless it's according to our values, that it's an expression of our values, then it will.
Exactly. Unless the inner part can be looked at like that, then it just becomes a drug so that you need more and more of. So I think I love what you're saying there. And what normally comes out of that is relationships are actually much stronger, healthier. You end up actually achieving more, like your book example. It's like, well, if you have that attitude of, instead of how do I validate myself? How do I sell 1 million copies? How do I become this respected author? Just going back to the basics, it's probably more likely to have a level of success than if you look at it through that other lens anyway. But so it's sort of a lose-lose if you do the other one, because you're going to be in pain through the process, and then you're going to be in pain unless you get an extreme positive result. So you're basically just saying, I want to be in agony. Or you can be like, I'll enjoy the process and I'll enjoy whatever comes from it. So you can't lose. So it's like, it's so simple, but so difficult to do in practice.
Do you know what's so crazy? Like just hearing you talk right now, it's so crazy because like, when I hear you say, like you can just enjoy your life and, do the process. It's so interesting that, like we don't hear that much really. Like we hear so much about achievement and people who are smashing their goals and they're like doing all these cool things. But yeah, like what about just enjoying your life?
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's really like not. This is why like our culture and our world is so cool in so many ways. There's so much like, especially, I mean, like the countries we live in, we're so blessed. There's so much good, so much good. And there's also like quite a lack of wisdom in the culture in general. So we just have to be really careful. We have to keep our wits about us and make sure that we're questioning, checking in with actually what makes us truly happy, checking. Um, Checking like when you live like this, how does it feel? When you live like that, how does it feel? Do
Yeah.
a few experiments and like see what's real for you, which often involves kind of going, you know what? I see your story and your standards world, but you know, I'm not yeah, I'm going to do it my way a little bit. I think there has to be a little bit of that these days.
Yeah, I think yeah, you have to, because otherwise you'll just be swept up in all of the noise that's happening, and you'll. It's sort of like being, a ship without a rudder. You're just going to be moving in so many
Something like
directions,
that.
and yeah, because there's too much going on. It's like it's impossible otherwise. So it's yeah, critical that we do that ourselves. Like all the stuff you're talking about, we need to take this into our own hands. And I think with what's happening in the world with technology, AI, social media, who knows where the hell that's going to go, but it's not going to go away anytime soon. So if we don't,
Yeah.
and I don't think regulations are going to be put in place on a level enough where they can force us to like behave with them in a healthy way. So unless we do that, we're not going to we're not going to be able to, find that peace of mind.
Yeah, I think it's time right now, like right now, with the disruption that's coming, and it's coming. I see the wave on the horizon, right? We all see the
Yeah.
we're all seeing the wave on the horizon. I think now is a really, really good time to like dig deeper, take really radical responsibility for ourselves and
Yeah.
our own well-being and how we would like to respond and who we would like to be in the midst of everything that's coming. I think there is going to be a level of challenge and change that's going to be quite pacey um, when it starts coming at us a little bit harder. And I think what I know to be true from my work over the years is when adversity hits or big uncertainty hits, many of us will just kind of, our default is to tip into a kind of state of kind of fear, some version of fear and disempowerment. Not because there's anything wrong with us, but just because of the way the human mind is wired through evolution. Just
Yeah.
kind of like it tips into kind of hypervigilance. And I think what we want to do is just kind of we want to learn to kind of, and this is very actually surprisingly easy, like I've said, right? It's like disconnecting from what harms, reconnecting with what helps. There's heaps of examples in the world of people who, when adversity hits, what they do is they kind of like take a metaphorical deep breath, get in touch with what's deepest and truest in them, and then they stay empowered and really effective. And
Mm.
that ability to be empowered and effective is also a really, really good antidote to tipping into all the, responses that also really, really exacerbate our suffering. So I think it's time for that deep breath collectively right now. Take a deep breath, dig into what's deepest and strongest in you and kind of stabilize there a little bit. I feel like that's where we're at.
100%. I think we're overdue for all of that. I think now's definitely the time. And on that note, I guess two things. Where can our listeners go if they want to learn more about you and all of the different things you do, and look at potentially even working with you or finding some of your resources? And can you tell us also a little bit about your book and how they can find out more about that?
Yeah, the book is called Deep Resilience, a 4-step journey to unshakable inner strength. You can find it wherever you find your books. And my website is melliobrien.com, MELLIOBRIEN. Maybe you can put it in the show notes.
It'll be in the show notes, yeah.
So they don't have to remember. But yeah, on my website you can find everything there, coaching options, courses, and other ways of staying in touch. I sometimes run some
Amazing.
free live meditations and things like that just to help people de-stress and find their center. So you can just join the newsletter if they want to be notified of those free live things as well.
Great. Well, yeah, like you said, anyone, you don't have to remember it all. It'll all be in the show notes, but make sure to click on it, check out the website, check out everything on there, check out the book, go buy the book. I think I'm excited to have a look myself. It sounds super valuable, and I think everything you're doing is incredible, and yeah, so grateful to have your time. We finish with 5 closing questions every episode, so these can be sort of whatever answer comes to mind for you, but the first one is, what is the best childhood memory that comes to mind for you?
Riding horses with my brothers, like seeing how many people we can jam onto one horseback and go right. It's
I love
fun.
it. Is it? Yeah, I actually just went horse riding for the
Five.
first time. I went for the first time last week horse riding.
Oh,
Had never
cool.
been. My girlfriend grew up like riding at a competitive level, and so we went out in Joshua Tree area, and I loved it. I want to do it
Oh,
again. So much
wow.
fun.
Oh, that sounds
It's
magical.
so magical. Yeah, it was amazing. So love that. What do you think is currently the biggest burden on mental health in society?
Ooh, the biggest. I think the biggest thing is actually that there's lots of big things at once.
Mm.
Um, but I think if I would summarize it, Gabor Mate just wrote a really great book called The Myth of Normal, and the subtitle I think is like finding. I'm sorry, Gabor, I'm going to get this wrong, but it's about finding your way to be authentic and well in a toxic culture. And I do think that right now we are so divorced from, like, we've just become so divorced from like wisdom. Um, and I think we're paying a very big cost for that lack of wisdom. It's almost like wisdom is like not important, not interesting. We've gotten so far away from it that I think we are, I would say, like, there is an intelligence that runs through nature and all of creation, and we used to be so much more connected to that. And I think the
Yeah,
loss of connection to that is it's sort of like a ripple effect comes out of that, that is very real, very big. So I think that's something like our biggest challenge.
absolutely. No, couldn't agree more. What
Mm.
would you say is your personal definition of happiness?
Definition of happiness. I don't know about how to necessarily define it, but I'm most happy when I'm still, when there's not much going on. Is just being, I guess, being in touch with um, myself.
Yeah,
Yeah, being in touch with myself and feeling the natural contentment and wholeness and goodness of that. Yeah,
love that. Yeah, 100%.
yeah,
If
yeah.
you could if you could go back in time and give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would that be?
Oh, be kind to yourself.
That's yeah, I love that.
Be kind to yourself. Yeah, take it easy. You're doing good.
That's such a good one, isn't it? Because we're just so hard on ourselves. Like it's like, yeah, just take it easy on yourself. It's
Yeah,
so
back
true.
then, back then I would probably just give myself a hug and go, "Hey, you're good. You're
Yeah,
good."
love it. Well,
Yeah.
final one. What are you most proud of?
Hmm. It's an interesting question. What am I most proud of? Um, Probably having the courage to um, heal the places inside of me that needed healing, because that's really not easy. That is like, you know, I think one of my old spiritual teachers or mindfulness teachers, he used to say, meditation is not for the faint-hearted. Like he's like, you come up against some stuff that is hard to see and tricky to work with, and it sort of just takes some gentle, persistent, loving courage to just keep going, keep going, keep going, um, just one step at a time. And I think that would be it, because it was harder in the beginning. All these things are harder in the beginning when you get going. You're not sure if it's going to work, and so that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, is just giving it a crack, keeping on going. That's probably it. Yeah.
I love that. Well, yeah, thank you so much. And I've taken so much out of this, and I know our listeners will as well. And appreciate you giving the time, and love what you're doing. And we'll have to, stay in touch.
I'd love to. Yeah. And thank you for the work that you're doing as well. Keep it up. And yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you, Melli O'Brien, for joining me today and offering your insights. And thank you for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and any suggestions for topics you'd like to hear about. Feel free to leave a comment or just send a DM. Your feedback's always appreciated. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much.